this is the best time to write deals. I see all the smart brands, especially in New York, where it is a little apocalyptic to see 34th Street right now, to see Soho. But I see the best brands, they're retrading into better spaces at lower rents. And I'll give you a little story. So when we opened our first store in New York City, it was 2014. We're coming out of the recession. Markets were booming. There was no retail vacancy in New York City. We couldn't even find a subpar space to move into. We're on the Upper East Side of New York, which is one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the world. And we can't even find 1,000 square foot space to get into. Finally, we see a frozen yogurt shop go out of business. And my dad walks in and makes a handshake deal with the landlord. This is not an ideal place to have a clothing shop. We get the worst lease that we've ever written as either retailers or landlords. It was in one direction, only for the landlord. Now,
at rates that were
you can't even imagine. For the people around the country listening to this, you can't imagine what we were paying. We were paying more than
I've got to know the per square foot.
It was about $190 a foot, and that was 4 times more than anywhere else we were occupying space, and there was no guarantee that we would write more business in the square footage.
There was also ridiculous covenants. There were also a serious amount of security. It was a one-sided lease, and we didn't have an option, and we felt we needed to be on the Upper East Side, which in the long term did pay off. We got very lucky about 15 months ago. A news article came out in The Real Deal, which is a real estate publication, that the building that we were in and the 2 next to it were potentially going to be sold to a developer and get knocked down for a skyscraper. And so we started to engage our landlord, and this little rumor turned out to be the truth. And we ended up getting bought out of our lease. It honestly was not an astronomical buyout because of how in favor the lease he had drafted, but it was enough for us to move. And 2014, now it's 4 years later, 2018. There's 30% approximate retail vacancy in New York City in many corridors. All of a sudden, we've got our pick of the litter. We're the belle of the ball. I'm going around and people are offering deals that I just couldn't even believe. They'll let me pop up. They'll let me try it out. They'll do build outs. They'll do air conditionings. It was a complete 180 from where we were 4 years ago. And we start picking out the space that we should be in. We doubled our space, a substantially nicer space, not a former frozen yogurt shop, but a beautiful retail shop with a retail facade, a full finished basement. And we are not going to pay the same rent that we paid in 2014 for another 15 years from 2019.
Right. And we're saving about $80,000 a year on rent. We didn't have to tie up our great-grandchildren and grandchildren for security. and we didn't have a gun held to our head. As a matter of fact, we got a good guy clause, and we can get out if we want. We spent about $150,000 to put the store together. We made it what we think is best in class in that market and we had a chance to see the market for the last 4 years. We know what they want. We know what they want to see. And since we've opened this store into having the additional capacity, Jordan just mentioned, we have about 30% more selling space. We have about 20% more, 25% more fitting space. And what we make our dressing rooms really like showrooms where the girls can prance around and try on clothes and have mirrors from every angle. We make it a good experience for them. But we have a lot more space now. It was very tight before. Now they have a proper dressing area, and business is up by over 40%. So we saved money, and business is up by 40%. And we have a long-term lease there for 20 years.
It's an incredible case.
It was a good opportunity. We're going to have another one very soon in another neighborhood in New York City, hopefully on very, very similar terms.